The following recording is a production of Kickin' Out at 2 in conjunction with the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network and is intended for private use only. For more information, head on over to facebook.com/Kickin' Out at 2 or our Twitter handle @Kickin' Out 2, along with searching Retromania with a W on any and all podcast platforms available to listen to archive shows such as this and all the great content of the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. Evergreen content at your fingertips anytime at your listening pleasure. And with that being said, we thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the show.
It's been a minute since we've done one of these little nostalgic wrestling podcasts. I'm Dave Rosenbluth. This is Kickin' Out at 2. Thank you all so very much for pressing play, hitting download, liking, subscribing, and rating and reviewing this podcast over on Podbean and any other podcast platform available. This is our blind date diary as we bring to you the very first edition of WCW SuperBrawl from May 19th, 1991. Just reached the 35-year anniversary of that. I've never watched this show before. I've seen clips. I've watched one match on this show, which I'll get into in a little bit as we do our review. So this is going to be a lot of fun going back with you for the very first time with a fresh set of eyes. But before we do all of that, there's a couple of things I wanted to address with the wrestling audience and my listeners, as well as anyone else that's new to the program. First and foremost, okay, just over the weekend, last weekend, I posted an AI photo, a picture of Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, and Ric Flair, which was presented in the 70s, and it looked like they had like the polyester with the wingtip shoes and the hair, and it looked like it was taking place outside. And there was a sign in the background that said fried dough. And it got a lot of backlash from the audience on multiple platforms that I posted on social media, as well as this particular page as well. Let me just say, okay, first and foremost, I am not a big fan of the AI. I'm not, okay? Especially it's overloaded on social media with videos and reels and pictures, and I normally don't really support it, okay? However, I saw this picture, and I thought it was kind of funny. Like I said, it was these three guys, Hogan, Flair, and Savage, posted, leaned up against the car. There's, it's got like the kind of distorted, rustic, black and white photo look to it. And you see Hogan wearing some really short shorts, and he's got a perm, okay? Which I don't believe, to the best of my recollection, Hulk Hogan had a perm. And the caption to the picture that I posted said, "Pic taken before they all shared a corn dog at the state fair," because it looked like they were at some kind of state fair. Now, mind you, this is an AI picture, okay? I posted it for the intentions and purposes to get a laugh from people. And instead, I got an overwhelming amount of backlash negatively from the audience. Now, I'm all for it, okay? You don't like it, that's fine. I'm not against it, but some of the things some of you guys were saying, man, the biggest one was, if you took this picture, fuck you. Yeah, I posted it. It was meant to be a joke. There was one point where I even had to explain it to somebody that I meant to poke fun at the AI, and this guy was pretty much like, it's not meant for social media. Social media has gone too far with this bullshit, and to some degree, you're right, okay? But the overwhelming backlash that I received from you guys, oh my goodness. Note to self, I will never post anything AI again on our social media. My goodness. You guys were just way out of control. I mean, some people bought it, and some people thought it was, and again, the intention behind it, maybe it wasn't articulated that way, but, with my caption, I meant, I said they shared a corn dog at the state fair. I thought that people would have gotten the joke, but apparently they didn't. So for those of you that were offended, I'm not going to apologize because it wasn't intended to offend you. And for those of you that got a laugh out of it, great, cool. Have fun with it. And for those of you that argued over whether it was real or not, come on now. Let's be honest. I didn't try to post this picture as if it were real. I didn't try to post this picture as if this took place in the 70s. I posted it because I thought it was pretty funny. Hulk Hogan with a perm, wearing, Daisy Duke shorts, and he had wingtips on. Or white loafers, excuse me. I mean, come on. Like, it's ridiculous. At one point, there were people arguing, like, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair never met when they were in the 70s, and, Hogan didn't have that kind of hair. Yeah, no shit. Like, I didn't mean to post this as if this was a real, true picture. This is AI. So, yeah, note to self and to all of you, don't worry. I will never post anything AI related again because it got all of you in an uproar. And it's lasted for several days. Like, even up until I hit record this morning, I saw that, there were people still commenting on it, that AI slop, and why would you post this garbage, and this is what's wrong with social media, and it's like, come on. Like, I was poking fun at it. Like, I know it's not real, and most of you should too, especially you hardcore, diehard wrestling fans that, think you know everything about wrestling, that took place of every minute of every show and in the history of wrestling. You should know that this didn't exist. But you guys fell for it. Some of you did, I should say. And, yeah, that's that. So, once again, no AI here on Kicking Out at 2 moving forward. Excuse me. Next on the docket was the return of Brock Lesnar, another thing that got the internet wrestling community in an uproar. Brock Lesnar, last time we saw him was at WrestleMania. He put his boots and his gloves down in the ring, and he kind of said goodbye, and it kind of implied that he was calling it a career after suffering a defeat to Obafemi at WrestleMania Sunday on night 2. And I will say, I said it on our last podcast, Monday Morning Mania, I kind of had a feeling that they're trying to work the audience and that there was going to be an opportunity for Brock to come back, that this was just part of something long term. Some people have argued now since he's returned that this is their way of trying to boost ticket sales for SummerSlam because they're not doing too well. And ratings aren't doing too well. ESPN's not happy with the viewership and the PLEs and so on and so forth. Whether all that's true or not, none of us really truly know. However, I will say I stand on business. I stand on 10 toes that Brock wasn't walking out like that. Okay. Now, how they got here, I didn't 100% expect Brock to return like this, but I'm glad he did. Okay. My original thought was Brock would come back to set up a match with Gunther because Gunther's favorite from Paul Heyman was to get a match with Brock Lesnar. At least that's the theory I had. Now, we saw just a few weeks ago on SmackDown, for those of you that are keeping score, that Gunther used Paul Heyman as a favor to get a shot at Cody Rhodes in the WWE Championship, which is going to take place at Clash in Italy on the 31st. And I was kind of disappointed in that. I was disappointed in that being the favor, but at the same time, I guess it's a reasonable favor. I was looking for something a little more juicier from the two of them. But we didn't get that. Okay. And now Brock's returned and he's resuming his feud with Obafemi. Now, the internet in an uproar. Okay. Just a few weeks ago, Obafemi created this open challenge, or he adopted this open challenge. And he was beating lower card talent, Otis, the Los Garzas just recently. So people online, I'd see the chatter online and on social media were complaining that, like, oh, he's lost momentum since he beat Brock. Okay? It's killed his momentum. Like, he needs some sort of credible challenger. And then we get Brock coming back, and you people still complain. Oh, well, it ruined Brock's retirement, and it kills Oba's momentum because, he had beaten Brock, and they only brought Brock back so he can get a win over Oba, and it's going to set up a trilogy and maybe the retirement match. And I'm so sick of hearing you fucking losers complain. And I'm not talking to my listeners. I'm talking to the people online in the internet wrestling community and social media. You fucking dorks just don't get it, okay? You can't have it both ways, all right? I don't truly feel that Obafemi's momentum was killed because of Brock returning. Had it slowed down a bit since he beat Brock at WrestleMania and he had these open challenges, sure. But now you got a main event super duper star in Brock Lesnar returning to get his lick back on Obafemi, and you're telling me that kills his momentum? Oba losing to Brock doesn't kill his momentum if that's the direction they're headed in. If there's even going to be a trilogy, okay? Now, you idiots, at the end of the day, you're just so upset that you're not on the right side of history. You couldn't predict this return. You couldn't predict this outcome in the story. So what did you do? You blame the booking. You blame how they set it up. Oh, this was terrible. This was lazy booking. You guys you're the worst kind of wrestling fans there are. You really are. And it's unfortunate and it's embarrassing that I have to lump myself in the same category with you as wrestling fans because you guys just take the fun out of everything. I've said it on recent podcasts. You guys fucking suck. Okay? Obafemi, Brock Lesnar, a rematch from WrestleMania. It's going to draw huge. Okay? Brock is a superstar. Look at his social media numbers. Look at how many people wanted to see this return on social media. He's a proven draw. All right? Regardless of what you think of him and his character or even the stuff personally on the outside with the whole Vince McMahon allegations, he's a proven draw. Okay? Now, the match is set for Clash in Italy on the 31st. Brock and Oba, rematch, okay? Whether this leads to a trilogy or not, I'm not quite sure, okay? I could see it leading to a trilogy with the match taking place at SummerSlam. But the rumor is that Brock is also scheduled to be a part of the Night of Champions show in Saudi Arabia on June 27th. So does that trilogy end there? And what does Brock do at SummerSlam? I don't know. But I will say there's a couple different avenues and directions I could see this headed. I could see this headed where Brock gets the win, and then we get one more match with him and Oba, whether that's at Night of Champions or SummerSlam, to be determined. Or I could see something where Brock cheats or gets himself disqualified. Or there's even some kind of non-finish where these guys just don't stop. You know, they don't listen to the referee's calls. They get the locker room out, officials, referees to break it up. And then maybe like Brock gets the best of Oba, leaving him laying. But there's like a non-finish. Neither guy won. Which then sets up a third match with a stipulation like last man standing or falls count anywhere or something like that. That will determine a definitive winner. Okay, I could see something along those lines. It also, going that direction, also, in my opinion, adds some intrigue to the story of Brock still hasn't beaten Oba. And it kind of backs up Oba's aura or his mystique in his character presentation by Brock not being able to take him down. Had Brock finally met his match, you can make that argument that WrestleMania proved that. However, if you're going to continue this, Brock's got something to prove by beating Oba. Okay? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that story. I could see Brock losing out of this feud with Oba. Oba beats him again, and then he moves on to Gunther. And Gunther dangles the championship in front of him. Because in my opinion, I feel like Gunther's going to beat Cody at Clash in Italy. I think Cody needs a break from the title. And I think everything that Gunther's done in the last year with retiring Goldberg, retiring John Cena, retiring AJ Styles, that it's time for him to have a strong run as champion. And having him beat Cody will help that and could further anything in the future with Brock Lesnar. Dangle that championship in front of Brock. Or Brock, they kind of lean into the internet speculation and chatter of the rumored Gunther-Brock Lesnar rivalry. Brock wants a piece of Gunther, but Gunther's like, dude, you're not worth it to me anymore. You've been embarrassed twice, 3 times by Obafemi. Why would I want to face you? Why would I want to put this championship on the line against you? And then that's where maybe Brock puts his career on the line. Brock says, all right, if I don't beat you, I'm done wrestling. I'm out of here. See you later. I'll really hang it up for good. And maybe that's how they get the match going. Whether that's at SummerSlam, who knows? The other thing to keep in mind, too, with this whole Brock thing is the fact that next year's WrestleMania is going to be taking place in Saudi Arabia. Okay? Brock Lesnar has been attached to the majority, if not all, of those Saudi Arabia events. Actually, not all of them, because he was gone for a couple of years, and they were still running Saudi shows. So for the majority of the times that the WWE ran those Saudi shows, Brock was a headline act over there. Even, dare I say, main event at times. And so it had been rumored and speculated that the Saudi government, the regime over there, they had requested Brock as a big ticket name to be a part of those shows. And he's well received over there and has a strong following. So I have a hard time believing that even SummerSlam, if it's in his hometown of Minneapolis, and he and it's rumored that he's going to call it quits, that I have a hard time believing that he's not going to be a part of WrestleMania next year in Saudi Arabia. Now, whether that's a final match or whether that's a Hall of Fame induction, they put him as the top act in the Hall of Fame over there, and they sell tickets that way with Brock entering the Hall of Fame. I just have a hard time believing that Brock Lesnar will be done for and won't be a part of next year's WrestleMania. So, but overall, I like the return. It didn't kill Obafemi's momentum. If anything, it kept it moving because Brock wants his revenge. Brock wants his lick back, and Oba working with a main event star like him is not going to kill his momentum. Did it slow down the previous weeks with this open challenge? Maybe so. I could get behind that, but killing it and having Brock come back, you fucking dorks just don't get it again. And because you want to be on the right side of history, you're going to blame the booking, and you're going to connect whatever dots you think are out there in the wrestling media space. I shouldn't even say wrestling media, wrestling content space, and present it as fact, as if you have all the answers, and you don't, and nobody does. So, with that being said, I'm looking forward to the rematch at Clash. Depending on how that turns out, I wouldn't mind seeing a third one and doing a trilogy and calling it a day with those two, and then see where Brock lands after that. So that was pretty cool. All right, got all that bullshit out of the way. Got all the grievances to air off my chest. Now it's time to discuss WCW Super Brawl 1, May 19th, 1991, from the Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg, Florida. First time I ever watched this show from start to finish. I had originally seen the Sting and Lex Luger versus Steiner Brothers tag team match, and I'll discuss that later on. But for the most part, I've never seen the show from start to finish. It's on the WCW Vault page on YouTube. You can go ahead and watch it over there. It's roughly 2 hours and 40-something minutes. And, let's get into it. First match on this card was the WCW United States Tag Team Championship match featuring the Fabulous Freebirds, accompanied to the ring by Diamond Dallas Page and Big Daddy Dink, taking on the Young Pistols, comprising of Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers. The Freebirds were Michael P.S. Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin. Anyhow, the action starts out early as the Pistols fight off the interference of Big Daddy Dink, which results in Brad Armstrong making his way to the ring to neutralize the threat. And then the referee ejects Big Daddy Dink from ringside early. The babyfaces would utilize their high-flying style to get the best of the Freebirds early on, and the Freebirds would counter with their ground attack. The Freebirds would take advantage as Garvin would pull the ropes down, sending Tracy Smothers over the top rope to the floor, following up with some quick tags and double-team moves. Notable moment in this match saw the Pistols attempt a double top rope drop kick as both Birds move out of the way. Armstrong would later follow up with a crossbody off the top rope to the floor onto the Birds. And the finish comes at 10 minutes and 19 seconds when the referee gets knocked down from a Pistols drop kick, leading to a mysterious masked man named Fantasia. Not so much of a mystery if its name is written across the shirt. Entering to deliver 2 second rope DDTs to the Pistols, helping the Birds pick up the win and becoming new United States Tag Team Champions. Fun little match to get things going. These two teams have pretty good chemistry. I'd seen some matches prior to that. Had some Clash of Champions. I believe they wrestled at a Great American Bash, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this is a fun little match to open the show. Crowd was into it. Next up, Ricky Morton and Dangerous Dan Spivey. Quick little game of cat and mouse to start things off as Spivey would strike Morton and throw him to the outside, but Morton would quickly return and fire back at Spivey. Dan Spivey's size dominates Morton as he delivers a modified Razor's Edge. Followed that up with a fall-away slam. So I'm curious if Scott Hall had watched some Dan Spivey content to add to his repertoire. Who knows? Morton would attempt a quick roll-up only to get a 2 count. And then the finish comes at 3 minutes and 11 seconds when Spivey delivers a power bomb for the win. This match wasn't really nothing to write home about. It was more designed, I feel, at least the way that was presented on commentary, to present Spivey as some big credible threat. I know that he was involved in the U.S. title picture with Lex Luger earlier in the year. They had a match at Wrestle War. If I'm willing to guess, based on watching this, they were trying to hype up Spivey as some kind of credible player in the title scene. Tony Schiavone and Missy Hyatt are on the ramp with the Z-Man, Tom Zink. I will say this. Tom Zink had that great 80s look, but once they stuck the microphone in his face, poof, he had no business cutting a promo. This segment was really to promote Missy as a backstage interviewer as they cut to a clip from Wrestle War in February of Stan Hansen berating her in the locker room as she was trying to get an interview. Then Missy hits on the Z-Man, asking what he's doing later. Or asking him if he should go taking a shower. This wasn't necessary for the pay-per-view. Third match on the card. Wildfire Tommy Rich. Somebody say somebody getting fired up. Taking on Nikita Koloff. Solid effort from Rich, but this match was really all about building Nikita and his current push in the United States Championship scene with Lex Luger. Koloff would hit Tommy Rich with the Russian sickle clothesline for the win at 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Then Tony Schiavone's on the stage yet again, introducing Teddy Long and the debut of Johnny B. Bad. Long cuts a promo on Rapmaster PN News. It looks like Bad's going to start a rivalry with PN News upon arrival to WCW. Then Bad gets the microphone and says, "I'm so pretty, I should have been born a little girl." Dusty's comments afterwards were pretty funny. He said, he may not look like how he's supposed to look, but if he's got a bad left hook, then he's a man. They were walking that fine line. I'll say that, with Bad wearing the makeup, the eyeliner, the lipstick. Next up, Dustin Rhodes, goes one-on-one with Terrence Taylor, who has Alexandria York and Mr. Hughes from the York Foundation in his corner. This was a solid back-and-forth technical wrestling match. Decent story heading in. His commentary notes that the York Foundation tried to recruit Dustin, but he turned them down. The finish comes when Dustin would deliver a bulldog to Taylor. York would get on the apron to distract the referee. Mr. Hughes gets on the apron, puts on his loaded black glove. Taylor holds up Dustin. Hughes goes for the swing, but Dustin ducks, nailing Taylor. Dustin goes for the cover and the win at 8 minutes, 5 seconds. Not a bad match. Like I said, decent story heading in. Both guys worked really hard. I'll be honest with you, growing up, I watched a little bit of this era of WCW, and I kind of liked the York Foundation. I don't know. It was a guilty pleasure of mine. I wasn't old enough to really understand the concept behind it, but they just were presented to me as like clean cut, business casual looking fellas. Even changing the name from Terry Taylor to Terrence Taylor. Eventually Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich would join, and it would be Richard Morton and Thomas Rich. They kind of had that Wolf of Wall Street kind of vibe to them, now that you look back on it. And Dustin, great athlete. Unfortunately, at that time, he was, living in that shadow and kind of attached to the legacy of his father, Dusty. They had mentioned on commentary, Dusty being at ringside on commentary with Jim Ross, kind of alluding to Dusty and Dustin having some conversations and interactions prior to the match regarding Dustin's match with Terry, or Terrence, I should say. Dustin, like I said, solid match between both guys, but they used, at least on commentary, Dusty, I think, laid it on pretty thick when it came to his involvement with Dustin in this match. And I think that was a hindrance to Dustin. Up next, Big Josh making his debut against Black Bart. The only noteworthy thing that came from this match was Josh was walking the bears down to the ring, actually live grizzly bears on leashes. And there was somebody walking behind him, I'm assuming like someone that's an expert with bears. And as you get about halfway down the ramp, you could see one of those bears is just literally petrified between the music, the noise, and all the people. He starts urinating halfway down the ramp. The finish comes at 3 minutes and 46 seconds when Big Josh delivers what Dusty called a big butt bump, a.k.a. the earthquake splash. This was, like I said, nothing to write home about. Another nothing to write home about segment that had no business being on the show was the Danger Zone talk show segment with Paulie Dangerously as he interviews Stan Hansen. Now, Heyman comes out wearing like khaki shorts and tennis sneakers with a cowboy hat on. Talking about being a real cowboy and then wanting to interview a real cowboy. Out comes Stan Hansen. He's got the chewing tobacco hanging out of his mouth, spitting everywhere. He goes after Heyman a little bit for mocking cowboys, then diverts his attention calling out Dustin Rhodes, challenging him to a real fight, ranting about Dustin's father, Dusty, not being a real cowboy, and then he walks off. And no follow-up from Dusty either, which was a little strange. And then Heyman just rants on the microphone about the matches on the card later in the night as his mic gets cut off. Just a weird segment. Didn't think it was needed for this show. Felt like they were just cramming way too much into this show at this point. Speaking of cramming way too much into the show, something that could have been saved for WCW Power Hour or Pro or Main Event or Saturday Night or whatever the fuck. You have the debut of Oz defeating Tim Parker. And it was only 26 seconds, thank God. The entrance and the setup was longer than the match. Apparently Kevin Sullivan, with a monkey on his shoulder, was dressed up in some weird wizard garb walking down the ring with Dorothy, the Lion, and the Tin Man and Scarecrow screaming, "Welcome to Oz! Welcome to Oz! Welcome to Oz!" It's horrendous. Oz picks up the win with the airplane spin powerbomb after all that nonsense. Not the best work from Dusty Rhodes and his form of genius, baby. I'll just say that. Something that could have been left off the show here. Missy Hyatt is back in the locker room attempting to get an interview with some of the guys. She runs into Terry Taylor, who wonders why she's in the locker room in the first place. She says she's looking for Z-Man, who might be in the shower, but it's Stan Hansen in his jacked-up boxer shorts. Spanks her with his cowboy hat and kicks her out of the locker room. Just another repeat from Wrestle War 91 earlier in the year. Excuse me. Up next, our 7th match on the card. Barry Windham and Flying Brian Pillman in a taped fist match. This was a good physical brawl from these two. We got color from both men. Felt very personal. I know it stemmed from Pillman's war with the Horsemen and kind of Windham being the one to target Pillman out of that group. The finish comes at 6 minutes, 8 seconds when Windham low blows Pillman on the top rope as the referee was shoved out of the way by Windham, following up with a superplex from the top rope for the win. Like I said, solid match, although I was hoping it was going to go a little longer as it was just starting to get going before the end. Two tremendous athletes, two tremendous performers, Hall of Fame talent. Not a bad match. Better than I expected. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I was hoping to be better than I expected, given the caliber of talent. Up next, another segment that probably could have been left off this show was Diamond Dallas Page and the Diamond Mine Talk Show. Page cuts to a video of Sting and Luger as he's hyping up the World Tag Team Championship main event or semi-main event against the Steiner Brothers. Page would then introduce the Diamond Stud, the debut of the Diamond Stud. The Diamond Dolls that are standing nearby rip off the Stud's pants as Stud poses for the camera. Page was rambling nonstop. Crowd didn't really seem to care. A lot going on in that segment. You can even hear Page in his earpiece mic, talking to the director like, "Are we on? Are we live?" Very poorly produced. Definitely something that could have been left off this show. Up next, the 8th match on the card, the Battle of the Giants stretcher match. Sid Vicious and El Gigante. The loser must leave the ring on a stretcher. Remember that, folks. Now, if I recall, there's an internet rumor out there that Sid didn't want to do a job to El Gigante. However, he only agreed to do one if he could get out of his WCW contract early to join the WWF, thus resulting in his exit from WCW, which coincidentally he'd end up in the WWF a few months later as the special referee for the SummerSlam 91 Triangle of Terror match made in Hell handicap match featuring the Triangle of Terror taking on Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. This match here, not a very good match at all. As Jim Ross would say, it was bowling shoe ugly. Sid tried, I'll give him that. He really tried to get a good match out of El Gigante, but he just wasn't skilled enough, meaning El Gigante, to put on a good match. And, remember I told you about the whole stretcher deal? Well, the match ends in a pinfall at 2 minutes and 13 seconds as Elegante delivers the claw pinfall to Sid for the win. Sid couldn't get out of there fast enough as One Man Gang and Kevin Sullivan, not in the wizard garb, attack Elegante after the match. And the stretcher ends up getting used, just not in the way it was supposed to be in the stipulated match. Elegante gets powder thrown in the face. One Man Gang beats him with the stretcher. He fights them off. They run away. He chases after him. End of segment. Moving on to our 9th match on this card. It is Ron Simmons and Butch Reed inside of a steel cage match with Teddy Long suspended above the ring in a shark cage. I'll say this was a hard-hitting match overall, but I think the crowd was starting to get tired from what I could tell. They didn't really seem to care. And you know what I noticed in this match, too? I love how Nick Patrick was trying to get these guys to follow the rules in a cage match. I mean, last time I checked, there are no rules in a steel cage match other than making sure that there's a winner. He was, admonishing them for their closed fists, having them break the count when they were in the corner. My good friend Kobe Naito over here on Retromania has always had a bone to pick with Nick Patrick being a terrible referee with his cadences and how he, points to the hard camera and the way he counts. And the more I watch some of this old WCW stuff, I can sympathize with Kobe. I used to think it was an annoying nitpick of his, but after watching this and realizing, maybe he wasn't that smart of a referee after all. So, Kobe, if you're listening, shout out to you. I can now understand and sympathize with your feelings on Nick Patrick and what you've gone through emotionally. So, buddy. Hope you're doing well. It's funny. The referee was cool with this next set of circumstances as Teddy Long would throw a chain from the top of the shark cage into the ring. Reed would grab the chain. He goes to nail Ron Simmons, but he ducks, and Simmons delivers a spinebuster for the win at 9 minutes and 39 seconds. If they got rid of some other garbage on this show, like the Diamond Mine segment, the Paulie Dangerously segment, the Oz match, even the stretcher match with Sid and Elegante, and you gave this match a little more time, I think it would be appreciated more. Like I said, hard hitting from both guys. There was no lagging in the match. I just think people got tired, and there was a lot on this card. Like I said, this was the 9th match on the card, and there was still about a good hour and some change left to go. Next match of the night right here. This is regarded as an underground classic, a favorite amongst the tape trading community back in the day. I watched this match. I believe I watched this. Actually, you know what? There was a Sting VHS that came out a number of years ago from Turner Home Entertainment that I got when I was a kid. And there were clips from this match, I remember. That was the first time I saw it. But then watching it in full, I believe I watched it on the old WWE network when there was a Sting compilation that they put together. That was the first time I watched it. We got a highlight reel showcasing both teams and their greatest hits with some dramatic piano music in the background. Like I said, this is a favorite amongst wrestling fans, despite the screwy finish with Nikita Koloff getting involved. I like to refer to this match as the action figure match because I had all 4 of these WCW Galoob action figures. I do remember playing with them as a kid. I don't know if I reenacted this match, but I just my first thought at least when I remember watching this match as a kid, or remember seeing this match hyped, because I did watch a fair amount of WCW. I just revert back to the action figures and not necessarily being excited, but looking forward to reenacting this match with those 4 action figures. Both teams popular with the crowd. This is the very rare babyface matchup that worked. I thought there was good pacing in this match from start to finish. Equal reactions for both teams when one would, Luger would deliver a shoulder block, get a good pop or a power slam. Rick Steiner would counter with a German suplex, same kind of response. It was split 50-50. The finish comes at 11 minutes and 9 seconds when Sting drops Scott with a tombstone. Rick would break up the pin. Luger runs in, nails Rick, but the referee somehow is caught in the middle. All 3 would spill to the outside. Then Nikita Koloff makes his way down the ramp, goes to nail Luger, who made his way back up off the floor from that spill, but Sting pulls him out of the way, and he eats the chain. The referee somehow rolls back in. Scott covers Sting for the win. Still, WCW or NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Steiner brothers. Excellent match. Excellent match despite Nikita's running. I could have watched them go another 15 minutes. Following the match, the Steiners will go to check on Sting. Afterwards, it's been documented that he's busted open from that chain. We cut to Schiavone, who's backstage with Nikita, but Sting shows up, and him and Nikita brawl all over the backstage area to end the segment. And we move on to our 11th match on this card. Arn Anderson defending the World Television Championship against beautiful Bobby Eaton. First thing I noticed, Arn, he rocking the yellow trunks, which is very rare. Usually it's red or black or even blue. And you won't be getting a bad match from these two. You get an interesting dynamic with Bobby as the babyface. You know, many of us are used to him working heel in a tag team as a part of the Midnight Express, but I think he did a good job portraying the good guy. Notable moments in the match saw Arn slamming Bobby off the top rope down into the pile of piss from the Bears that is on the ramp. Arn continued to work the leg throughout the match. Good psychology with the attempt to prevent Bobby from delivering that leg drop finish. The finish comes at 11 minutes and 50 seconds when Bobby drops Arn with a swinging neck breaker. Then Barry Windham shows up, tries to distract Bobby, who's on the top rope. Brian Pillman shows up, running off Barry Windham. And then Eaton drops the Alabama Jam top rope leg drop onto Arn for the win to become the new WCW World Television Champion. Good pop for Eaton's victory. The crowd was happy to see him win. I don't think the fans in attendance expected him to win, so it was an unexpected good reaction for it. Tony Schiavone is backstage outside the dressing room of Tatsumi Fujinami as he's getting ready for his match. Hiro Matsuda walks out of the dressing room and says that the title is going back to Japan as we have reached our main event. It's for the WCW NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Ric Flair versus Tatsumi Fujinami. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't into this match. It wasn't bad from a technical wrestling standpoint, but I just couldn't get into it. There's two referees in this match. New Japan Pro Wrestling's Hattori, a.k.a. Red Shoes, and WCW's representative Bill Alfonso, who is on the outside. This all stems from a controversial finish these two had in a match in Japan prior to this. I was baffled at why Ric Flair got color in this match. I mean, this didn't feel like a very personal rivalry. This just felt like a competitive story between two guys wanting to be the champion and wanting to be the best. I don't really think the color called for it, but I guess, it's Ric Flair, so I guess he was trying to make it more dramatic. Maybe he was trying to color up the story because some people weren't really into it. The finish comes at 18 minutes and 39 seconds when Flair rolls up Fujinami with a schoolboy and a little bit of trunks for the win. And still, WCW/NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Nature Boy Ric Flair. I will say, kind of a downer way to end the pay-per-view. This was not WCW's best work. This was under the Jim Herd era, which has been regarded as one of the worst periods of time in WCW's history. I will say this. I expected this to be a lot worse of a show, and with the TV title match, even the Flair match, the tag team titles with Sting and Luger, if you got rid of the Danger Zone segment, the Oz match, the Missy Hyatt stuff, even the stretcher match, I think this would have been a solid pay-per-view. This would have been like a C+ pay-per-view. And mind you, this is also the first and only time SuperBrawl emanated from the month of May. It would revert to February the following year in 1992 and would be that way moving forward until WCW was no longer in existence. So if I were to give it, like I said, if they erase that stuff, it would be a C+. This is a D-. This is a C- D+ event. Go out of your way to watch the Luger Sting versus Steiner's match. Even the Arn Anderson beautiful Bobby Eaton match, one of the rare times you saw Bobby Eaton as a babyface and his only singles championship in his WCW career. yeah, that about does it for this edition of Kicking Out at 2. Thank you all for pressing play, hitting download, and liking and subscribing and rating and reviewing this podcast. Hopefully Dennis gets back in the saddle with me soon. We got some stuff coming up, as always, to rehash and to revisit in the history of wrestling. As the months get warmer, we get to summer. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So hit our social media. Follow us on Twitter at KickingOut2. Follow us on Facebook. We got reels, all kinds of fun stuff. Oh, I forgot to mention, speaking of reels, I posted a reel the other day. I guess the WCW Vault page missed this when they were going through their footage. But there's a scene in the show in between matches where you get a camera shot of the fans, and there's this one guy that is depicting himself either inhaling a $5 footlong or a phallic object that rhymes with Venus. And I'll just leave it at that. You could find that video up on our Facebook page. All right, that about does it. I think it's about time we put this one officially down for the 3 count, and we will see you all next time.